Hi, everyone. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. Thank you for joining today. Um, my name is Becca Spilka, and I'm going to be kind of leading your webinar and acting as your host today. So we'll just kind of move into meeting the team today. So I am one of your program administrators, so I am the Graduate Student Services Coordinator here at Clemson for the Online Computer Science MS. We also have our Master's Program Coordinator, Carlos Cabrera. Carlos, do you want to come on and just introduce yourself and say hey to everyone?
Yes, let me just go. Good morning, everyone. Carlos Cabrera. I am, like Becca said, the Master Program Coordinator here at the university. So glad that you can join us.
Great, thank you. Yeah, so I've been here a couple of years. I've worked with our on-campus students for about a year, and then I switched over into working with our online students. You'll probably see my name a lot and probably talk to me a lot. But yeah, we're excited that you're here today and ready to get started on this. Also, I want to introduce the faculty that we have on the call today. So Dr. Brian Dean is our School of Computing Director. I'm going to have them actually introduce themselves a little bit more shortly when we do our course, because we're doing a course deep dive today, and we'll get to hear from them a lot, which is really exciting. And then we have Dr. Paige Roediger, who is a assistant professor in computer science. They're both tenure track faculty here at Clemson, and they're really great resources, super smart people, and we're really excited to get to hear more from them today about their classes. Before we launch into kind of the topic today, which is a course deep dive of those PBA courses, I do want to do a really brief overview of the program and just kind of situate everyone in what this program is and what kind of resources are available. So we'll talk about that a little bit first. So in this online computer science MS, this program is really taking a human-centered approach to AI. So AI is obviously a really growing field and emerging technology, and we're seeing it pop up everywhere, seeing lots of jobs around it pop up everywhere. But I think one of the scariest things about AI is, the idea that it's going to push out, human jobs and kind of make way for humans to not be so important. But we don't want to take that approach. We want to take a much more human-centric approach, so we can look at the way that AIs just help people in work environments, the way we can design AI to work with humans, and the humans that are creating it can also think about all the wonderful ways that we can use it to create awesome work environments, do really cool things, and just advance our society. So we have lots of cool courses, and I'll talk about those a little bit shortly. This is a fully online and asynchronous program. So all of the coursework is going to be online. It's very flexible. There are deadlines throughout the semester, and you are kind of on that Clemson semesterly schedule, but it's really flexible as far as like when you review the lectures and when you do the assignments. In your traditional on-campus program, you're meeting 6 hours out of the week in person, and that's very intimidating and a lot of time out of your day. So this is a fully online program, and that allows you that flexibility to get your work done and watch those lectures whenever you want during the day or whenever you have time during the week. So that's really exciting. Um, the other really cool thing that kind of Coursera brings to the picture here is that they have performance-based admission. So what this means is that, and I'll get into the nitty-gritty of this in a little bit, so I'm just going to do a really brief overview. So if you're like still confused after this, there's some more info on that later in the webinar. But basically what performance-based admission means is we skip that formal application process. So no GRE, no letters of recommendation, for our international applicants, no language scores. And instead you take the performance-based admission courses, which we're going to talk a lot about today. And if you pass both of those courses with a B or better, you receive admission to the computer science MS. The only kind of prerequisite is that you have an undergraduate degree in something. So an accredited 4-year bachelor's degree in any field, which is really great if you're one of those people that are looking to change career paths through this degree, or if it's been years and years and years and your computer science degree is been sitting on a shelf for a long time. So that is a really cool aspect of this program and definitely removes a barrier for entry. And I will talk a lot about that process later on. The last thing I want to touch on, and I know this is a super brief overview, so if you have questions, please do drop them in the Q&A box, and we'll get to them later in the webinar, so we'll do a Q&A at the end. But the last thing I want to touch on is access to Clemson resources and support. So a lot of times people do have the question of, I'm an online student. Does that mean that I'm actually like a Clemson student, or am I more of like a Coursera student? And you are a Clemson student in this program. So as long as you're doing the 4-credit PBA kind of like MSCS program, you are a Clemson student. So you'll register for classes through our system. You'll pay your bill directly to Clemson. You'll be on the Clemson academic calendar, and you'll get a Clemson degree at the very end that says that you finished the computer science MS at Clemson. There's not even anything that says it was online. And you have access to all these great Clemson resources. So we have, our Michelin Career Center. Clemson Job Link is a job board that's exclusive to Clemson students. So that's really a great resource. And we have things like student accessibility services. And then you also have access to our wonderful faculty and staff, and me being one of those staff members that is here to support you always. So yeah, if you have any questions, again, please drop them in the Q&A. Really quickly, I want to go over the curriculum that we're kind of going to be rolling out. So this is a new program, so we are rolling the curriculum out slowly. Currently live, we have our 2 PBA courses, so CPSC 8400 Design and Analysis of Algorithms, and we have CPSC 8740 AI Receptive Software Development. And then in the spring, we're currently working on CPSC 6300 Applied Data Science, CPSC 6620 Database Management Systems, and HCC 6600 Human-Centered AI. So another thing I want to point out before I launch into the other courses is that while this is the rollout process, this is by no means like a prescriptive thing about what order you need to take the courses in. It is a very flexible program, and you can take 2 courses a semester, 1 course a semester. The only limit is that you should finish your degree in 6 years. That is like a time limit that Clemson has on master's degrees. So all of your courses need to be finished in a 6-year time frame. But you can take a break, you can take 3 classes, 2 classes, whatever you want, whatever works for you in your life. So this is just the rollout that we're doing, and then we're hoping to keep these on a rolling basis in fall and spring semesters for you, so you can join those PBA courses this coming spring. They will be live every semester. So yeah, so in the spring 2025, those courses are kind of laying some foundations for the data science field and database management, and then also getting a little bit into that human-centered AI topics, which is like very exciting. And then in fall 2025, we will be launching CPSC 6140 Human Computer Interaction, CPSC 8650 Data Mining, and CPSC 8430 Deep Learning. So you get a little bit more of that human computer topics to kind of get more of a baseline on that, working with computers and making sure you're making like a very human-centric software, or taking those approaches, thinking about the way that humans, I keep saying interacting, but the way they interact with computers, so like sometimes softwares are not so intuitive, and we want to build things that are intuitive, and we want to build things that work for people, because that's what we are. And then also getting into some of those deep topics like data mining and deep learning, and getting some depth in those areas, some more technical knowledge. And then in spring 2026, we have courses that we're currently under development. So one of those is an HCC at the 8,000 level, and that is called Human AI Collaboration. And I've actually been working with a faculty member on that course to like build that proposal, and it sounds so interesting and so cool. So very like application heavy course, and thinking about those AI technologies in
fact, they've
interim.
even updated the title to something a little bit more descriptive on that. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
currently
I can't
called
remember it off the top of my
it's
head, but do you?
Applications of Human AI Interaction, Collaboration, and Teaming. So
Yeah, so a
it
lot
does
of
look like
really
a very cool class. I would love to take it myself, I think.
Yeah, it sounds super interesting. So we're very excited about that class. And then the other one that's under development is CPSC at the 8,000 level that is planned to be advanced AI and large language models. So getting into deeper into those topics. All right. And so now we'll launch into the course deep dive. I know that was like super like fire hydrant of information, but the information is out there on our website as well. And you're always welcome to ask questions and we're here for you. I will also add that we'll go through each of the courses. So we'll spend some time with Dr. Dean and then Dr. Radiguerro. And after each course, we're kind of planning to do like a little mini Q&A session. So as we're talking about the course, if you have questions that come up, please drop them in the chat and we'll look at those questions right away and kind of chat through them on that specific course. So please be dropping your questions in the Q&A box. All right. So Dr. Dean, let's talk about your CPSC 8400 design and analysis of algorithms.
Sounds good.
So can you give us an overview of what this course is all about?
Okay, I guess maybe I'll just introduce myself super briefly. So I'm Brian Dean. I'm a professor here in the School of Computing. I'm also the director of the School of Computing. So at a very high level, I'm very excited. Our entire faculty is very excited about this Coursera program. We've put a lot of effort into designing the curriculum and trying to kind of figure out a sequence of courses that makes a lot of sense. And I'm really happy with the product. I kind of, if I'm asked to describe, myself, what this program is all about to people, I kind of described it as, it is a modern computer science MS degree. So you'll basically get everything that you would expect to get in terms of proper training that goes along with the CS master's degree, but with, of course, emphasis in AI. And I really do like kind of this balance between the technical and the human facing sides of AI. I think a lot of AI programs, and there's a lot of them out there, they focus mostly on just the technical aspects of AI. But for AI systems to really work, AI is interacts with humans in very complex ways. And so we have a lot of strength in our School of Computing on the research side, especially in human-centered computing. We have an entire division of human-centered computing. And so I think leveraging that to kind of build in kind of human-centric aspects of AI into our curriculum really makes this program unique. And that's something I think is pretty exciting. So
Awesome. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Yeah, it's Dr. Dean has really like been a champion for this program and has, helped like process the development of these courses and made sure we, had a really awesome, interesting curriculum for you all. So we're really excited about it. Yeah.
And another benefit of the curriculum is you get to suffer through my class as one of the PBA courses. The CPSC 8400 class is, I guess I would call it a modern algorithms course, a modern graduate algorithms course that has, I've tried to customize it so that it covers tools and techniques and standard algorithms and data structures that you are more likely to see in modern applications. And then, with a nod to the AI theme behind the degree program, I try and incorporate a lot of ingredients into this course that are relevant in the design and analysis of kind of AI tools and systems. And so it's a fairly fast-paced course. Their algorithms is a very broad field, so we do cover a lot of ground. But it's an absolutely fundamental course. If you think about, computer science and what computing is all about, it's all about how do you solve problems efficiently with computational technology, and that's what algorithms are all about. So this is why we've chosen this as one of our PBA courses, because it really is a foundational topic in computer science, and it really is kind of a good basis that you can build on top of for your future classes. It gives you a lot of problem solving skills and a lot of skills in developing implementations of complex ideas. How do I translate a complicated idea for how I can solve a problem from up here to actually writing it in code? So there's both kind of a theoretical component to the class and there's an implementation component to the class. And I think that's very valuable in terms of algorithms, not only learning how they work in theory and kind of the mathematical side and how do I analyze the performance of different algorithms, but how do I actually implement them and build real systems using these algorithms. So in terms of major topics we cover, we go over all of what you would expect to find in an algorithms course. You know, you'll definitely cover, and we do start at the beginning. So in terms of, there's a question here about kind of what would I be expected to know coming into the course, what prerequisites. That's a bit challenging for online courses like this, because we're trying to develop a degree program that will be accessible and approachable to a wide range of students, many of whom it's been decades since they were, you know, doing their undergraduate studies. And so we have a very wide range of backgrounds of students taking this program. And so we've tried very hard to kind of minimize the amount of kind of hard prereq knowledge that they have to know coming in. So for my class, coming in with some basic knowledge, if you know a little bit of discrete math, if you may have taken some algorithms or data structures in the past, that will definitely help. But we do try and start at the beginning. And so we don't make too many assumptions about prior knowledge. There are certain parts of the class where we may use terminology and ideas that would be helpful to know from other classes. So when we talk about optimization, knowing about, you know, what a derivative or a gradient is for things like gradient descent would be useful. And like many graduate classes, there will probably be terminology or things mentioned along the way that maybe you haven't seen in a while. And so you would be expected to probably read up on the side to kind of catch up on anything that you in particular are kind of rusty on. But the class really is designed to be as approachable as possible. And so in terms of major topics, we do start at the beginning. We cover all of the standard algorithms, sorting algorithms, graph algorithms, optimization algorithms. We cover a lot of data structures. We cover a lot of techniques for analyzing and designing algorithms. We do a lot of live coding lectures where you basically get to see me embarrassing myself writing code that implements these different algorithms and talking about how you translate ideas from kind of a thought process into code. And I think it's a very fun course. The students taking it right now, we have about 50 students taking it at the moment, and they seem to be enjoying it, or at least that's what they're telling me. I'm not sure if my TA is going to tell a different story. But in terms of what this will prepare you for, so like I mentioned, algorithms, it really is a foundational topic in computing, and it really kind of it gets to just, you know, computational problem solving. How do I think about complex systems and breaking them down into smaller pieces and kind of dealing with abstraction, you know, kind of how do I manage the high level picture of what I'm trying to solve versus all the low level components that go into it. And so I think it sets the stage nicely for some of the classes that are yet to come in the degree program and kind of giving you the problem solving skills to be able to address those. So you kind of know what's going on underneath the hood, so to speak, when you're looking at things maybe in at a higher level in future classes. Also, I guess if you are looking at different career options as a computer scientist, many of the technical job interviews out there tend to ask algorithmic questions. And so having a good algorithmic knowledge will help you ace your next technical job interview. So lots of benefit out there to knowing algorithms well. But definitely want to know your questions and what I can help with in terms of addressing any concerns that you might have or clarifying anything that you might be interested in.
So thank you for that really great overview of everything and kind of hitting those questions as you went along. That was awesome. So we'll kind of go into a little Q&A session. I do see some great questions being asked in the chat. So one person asked, will there be programming? And if so, what language will you use?
That's a good question and something I should have mentioned earlier. So one of the only kind of requirements I would say coming into the class is that you should know how to program. Because we don't teach you how to program. We do kind of teach you how to write, kind of translate algorithmic ideas into code, but we do expect that students kind of have a sense of how to code already. We do support 3 languages in my class. C/C++ would be one of them, Java, and then Python. And so all of the programming assignments you can submit in any of those 3 different languages. There's an auto grading kind of infrastructure that will support and grade assignments in any of those 3 languages.
Oh, awesome. And also, I think you kind of touched on this, but just to clarify, refreshing up on linear algebra, discrete methodology, and algorithms to help prepare for this, like would those kind of topics be?
I would say a little bit of discrete math. So kind of if I say, n factorial or n choose 2 or notions like that you would learn in a basic discrete math class, those would be helpful. How do you prove something by induction? So kind of ideas from a discrete math class would be useful. If you have had some prior algorithms or data structures training, that would definitely be helpful, but we do start at the beginning there. On the math side, I would say there's probably 3 different types of math classes that will feed in at some point to some of the topics that we cover. So we do a lot of randomized algorithms, and so knowing a little bit about probability would possibly help, although we do try and kind of cover things from scratch there. Knowing a little bit of linear algebra might be helpful at some points in the class, and a little bit of kind of calculus. So especially later on when we talk about continuous optimization, things like derivatives and whatnot. I would say if you're feeling rusty on those topics, you're probably still going to be okay because we don't really get into the weeds too much mathematically. I like to joke with my students that we really just, add 1 + 1 in creative ways in my class. So I wouldn't stress out or worry too much on the mathematical side. There is some mathematical content for sure in the class. But if you feel like you're super rusty on the math, that may not be a deal breaker. It may just mean that you're kind of like reading a few more Wikipedia pages along the way.
And I do want to answer, if there's any other questions about this class, please go ahead and drop them in the chat so we can go ahead and chat about them now. But I do see a question asking about someone saying that they've taken Coursera courses online before that didn't have instructors, but will this have a different level of support? And yes, so we have office hours offered throughout the semester, and our TAs, you can see maybe in the chat right now, kind of answering your questions. They're available to answer your questions. So we're really like, this is a very like supportive, heavy program. So if you ever have questions, yeah, you're welcome to reach out directly to us. So Brian, do you want to kind of talk about like what that's looked
Sure.
like so far?
Yeah, we try as hard as we can to build rapport with our students, to interact with our students. That's important in an online class. It's especially important in my classes. I depend on students coming to office hours and talking to them outside the classroom, and it's no different in an online setting. So in our class, for example, every week I have office hours. My TA Corey has office hours. We try and schedule one in the evening and one during the day to accommodate people's schedules and the fact that we have students across the country in different time zones. We have lots of different mechanisms that we can use to interact with students. There's online message boards on the Coursera platform. There's a Slack discussion server. There's a messaging system where you can kind of submit messages and have them bounce back and forth with the course staff and have everything tracked. So there are lots of ways to interact and to reach out for assistance, and we very much try and encourage students to do that because that's a very important component of learning these things effectively.
It's one question we just got is, with Python being the most beginner friendly, would you say 3 to 6 months would be sufficient for CPSC 8400? I'm not sure if the student means like 3 to 6 months of preparation. I will say our courses are run on the academic calendar. So if you're thinking about like how long it's going to take you to take the course, it is run on that 16-week academic calendar. But if you're looking to maybe like do some prep and learn a language, would 3 to 6 months of being kind of exposed to that language, do you think that would make sense?
It possibly could be for my class. It would be interesting to hear eventually what Paige says as well in terms of her expectations for her class in terms of programming and prerequisite knowledge. Everybody's different, so it's kind of hard to give a definitive answer to questions like that. 6 months of preparation for one person could be very different than the same thing for another person. But definitely coming in with a little bit of knowledge on how to program, I think, is important.
Yeah, and I will add on to that. So and this might answer a few other questions that we're seeing pop up, but our PPA courses are currently available this fall, and we'll be offering them again in the spring. And ideally, every single fall and spring, you'll be able to enroll in those PPA courses. So you can kind of gauge each semester if you're ready, if you feel like you're ready or not. There's also something that's called open content on Coursera, and essentially you can get access to that with a subscription to Coursera, and you can kind of sample the classes. So you can get an idea if you feel prepared by kind of like practicing those beginning assignments. Now, with the open content, you won't get the same level of support that you will with the 4-credit program, but it is still a good way to kind of check your knowledge and see if you're ready to enroll. So hopefully that kind of helps guide. Our open content, I think, is planning to be launched for the PBA courses sometime this semester. I'm not sure of the exact date. Brian, do you happen to know what that
I'm
is?
not sure the exact date. It's soonish, I think.
Yeah, so hopefully everyone will have a little bit of time if you're looking to enroll in the spring to maybe sample those courses before we launch, before we start the spring semester. I am, for the sake of time, going to move on to Paige's class, but thank you all for your great questions, and if we have time at the end, we'll definitely revisit them. All right. All right, so Dr. Rodiguerho, do you want to introduce yourself really quickly first, and then we can get into talking about your class?
Yeah, that sounds great. I'm Dr. Paige Rodiguero. My area is software engineering. I do software engineering research, but I also have been a developer. I've worked in industry and big tech. I've worked for a startup for 3 years. I've worked in medium-sized companies as well. And so I'm very much involved with industry still, and I try to make my courses prepare you. I know this is the last question, but one of my biggest focuses are keeping up with the trends and how people are working. And I study how people work in terms of software engineering and productivity and development at like a low level, even within the code. So with that context, I think that helps start these questions off. So I can just jump in and give an overview, if that's fine. Yeah, Becca?
Yeah, that sounds great.
Cool. So this course is really about development and using AI to help you develop. This is not you writing to ChatGPT, give me a program that does this, this, and this. You're going to need to know how to program, but you're also going to rely on AI tools of your choice. You'll use different ones. I'll ask you to use a couple different ones. In terms of programming language, I don't really care. If I can run it, cool. My TA Michaela, she's here. If she can run it, cool. That's great. I know that everyone has different programming languages that they've learned, and I'm not gonna like try to make you learn another one on top of this coursework. So just make sure you know how to program, because there is no lecturing of like how to program whatsoever in this course. So you need that to be prepared. What you need to know, so one thing that has come up this semester, I don't teach things like repositories, but I've realized that a lot of people don't know how to use them. And I like highly encourage students to do so, to build that online portfolio. So I would recommend looking at like how to use like say GitHub or something if you've never done that before, because I encourage you to put your code up there, again, like citing the tools you use, doing all the legal things that you should be doing. But this class is also helping you prepare your portfolio for future jobs. A Git repository is okay. Yeah, whatever you want to do. I'm not going to interact with any of your repositories in this course. So whatever you want to do, I just want you to be able to, you know, revert back, be able to go look at it and I don't know, a year from now, or have it online for someone who might be hiring you to look at. So why is this one of the PBA courses? Well, software engineering and software development is really important software in computer science. Most of you will be a software developer if you already are not. And you need to be able to develop software to do any of these courses. So this is kind of a course to test that a bit, but also you get to rely on these tools. Like this is a course where you'll also reflect a bit on what you do because you use these tools. And I'm all for AI tools, but AI tools can't reflect on what you've learned and such. So there are some reflections during this course. There's a project, I think some assignments, and the assignments build up different skills to get you to the project where you then do all of the things with a different context. And so the first part is definitely more heavy in terms of different context switching with assignments, but the next part, the last 7 weeks, is a full project. You'll have lectures still, but you'll only really be looking or working on these projects. And then like having some little assignments like updating on your project progress, etc. I'd like to think this course can prepare you for future courses and also work in the industry. I mean, I know it does. One of the things that I really like am on top of is that we are following what industry is doing, because I don't want a student to be behind. If you're not using an AI tool to develop software to some extent or to help you, you are behind. Everyone else is doing it, all of big tech, and they've been doing it. So as someone, like when I got my undergrad, well, I was in a startup during undergrad, but point being, I went to industry, and a lot of things that I learned on the spot, I felt like I should have known earlier on. So that's like one of my goals with every course, is to get you to know as much as possible to prepare you for industry. Sometimes I talk about industry. I have office hours once a week. Michaela has office hours twice a week. And like, you're welcome to come in and talk to me about the course, or even like about jobs, etc. I have a lot of students come to me to talk about jobs and all different things. So I'm very open to also discussing that. And I'll take some questions from the chat. I haven't looked at the chat yet.
Yeah, if you have any questions specific to the course, please go ahead and drop them in the chat. I do see a question about student licenses. So Clemson does offer a number of licenses to various programs. Do you have any specific like programs or licenses that are required for your course?
So I do not. You are welcome to sign up for any tool and pay for the advanced features. You might want to do that. I will say there's no book in this course that you have to purchase. There is books, but they're all online and give you all that content. But you might want to, spend $20 a month paying for a tool, especially if you already know how to use that tool, or you really want to learn that tool. So it's really up to you, but I will not require you to pay any money to participate in this class outside of like the enrollment tuition fees.
Same for my class.
Awesome. Is there a specific AI we would use or a specific type for 8740?
Yeah, so it depends on the assignments, but so we do start with AI and coding. So maybe you use Copilot, right? You could also use ChatGPT and work with it back and forth in code. We also do a section where we do basic HCI stuff. So thinking like user interface, user experience. And so there are tools out there that are integrating AI into them, like Adobe, Figma, etc. And so you do explore some of those tools as well. And then all of it comes together in the final project at the end of the semester.
So I do see a question about, I just lost it. I think it was about like specific courses on Coursera that you would that we would recommend. And we haven't yet done that, like mapped specific courses. We do have something called the MSCS Ready sequence, and we're working on maybe getting those online. We would love to have them online so that you can take those courses with us and kind of brush up on that knowledge. But I think it sounds like an programming course would definitely be essential for your class. Is there any other courses that you feel like are really foundational that maybe they can kind of keep an eye out for?
If you can't write a simple software program, let's just say a calculator or tic-tac-toe, because those are like the obvious ones people learn in undergrad, that might be problematic. So you just want to be able to write, I'd say, a little bit more of an advanced calculator at the bare minimum without having to like spend hours and hours and hours trying to figure out how to do it. So if you can get a program running from code that you write without AI, you should be okay. With Dr. Brian Dean's course with algorithms, you're going to implement some of that stuff later on. So when we're doing like a movie recommendation system right now in the course for the final project, it might change a bit. I haven't decided, but it's going to be the same like instructions and rubric and all the things. And so you'll be learning some of that stuff earlier on with Dr. Dean and then implementing that. So you don't need to learn some of that stuff that we go through later ahead of time.
I do see a couple questions about just timeline, and I will have a slide on that later on. But the performance-based admissions courses will be available for enrollment in spring. The enrollment form is open now for spring, and the deadline is January 8th, and we'll get into that a little bit more as well. Any other questions? Oh, will we have access to Clemson's computer labs? So if you are local, you are welcome to come to campus at any time and utilize the on-campus resources. You will have access to the buildings and things like that. So very cool that if you're local, you kind of get to come be a part of the community. And you're also welcome to travel and come visit for events or anything like that. You do have what is it? Like people always ask about football. You have access to the student discount. You don't get any special ones, just the student one, but that is really exciting. Any other questions about the PBA courses? Someone did ask, is there a preferred order for which of these two to take first? I think that's a great question. If Dr. Dean or you want to answer.
You could do both at the same time. I know that lots of you have jobs, families, and just all these other different priorities. So sometimes it's hard to take two classes at once. I get that. I think it's up to you really what you want to focus on if you were to pick one of the two to start with. But I'll pass it over to Dr. Dean.
I know a lot of my students are taking both right now, but many are just taking one or the other. And I don't think that there's really a dependence between the two courses. So you really can kind of pick and choose which one you'd prefer to take first. So I don't think there's a strong preference for one versus the other.
Yeah, we've seen a good mix of students doing both at one time, or just doing one or the other first. So if it works better for you to do one at a time, you can definitely do that. Just keep in mind that you do have to pass both with a B or better before you receive that full admission. A couple more, it looks like some more kind of technical questions. Do we need to create make files to be associated with each program, or do we just compile the code assigning a name to the executable? Very technical.
For my course, I'm okay with different workflows. So we can discuss that. And I'm not going to say one way is better than the other and require that. So we can talk about it. I really want you to take the skills and experience and knowledge that you already have into this course rather than like trying to learn a different workflow of any sort. So we'll talk about that. I saw also there's a question about how many hours a week do students usually spend on this course. I know, or on each course. For my course, it's about 9 to 12 hours total. That includes like lectures, your work, there's readings. Like I've calculated out how long each of these things will take you. That includes quizzes and exams. I think it's similar for Dr. Dean, but I'll let you also answer for yourself.
It's similar. I've designed my course to be comparable to what you would expect for an in-person standard, a class. I think in terms of amount of lecture content per week, it's maybe about three total hours or 4 total hours. But then there's also exercises, assignments. It's flexible, which is nice because you can kind of take the course at your own pace to some extent. There are some deadlines, spaced out throughout the semester, but there's a lot of flexibility built in so that if you do have a heavy week on your side, then you can hopefully work around that. But it's a proper course. It's a full-fledged course. It's not because it's online that there's less content or less material. So keep that in mind if you are considering taking both classes, because that is a pretty full schedule. A standard graduate student schedule would probably be 3 classes at our institution, maybe 4 if you're being ambitious, if you're being a full-time student.
Yeah, most of our graduate students are only doing 3 courses at one time. Another kind of what sounds like a course specific question, do we have access or ever need access to the Palmetto supercomputers, say if we're using large data?
I don't think any of our courses are going to require that. But it would be a resource that potentially would be available if the need arises, if you're working with faculty members that on a project that involves Palmetto. So
Right, I think we're gonna shift into talking about PBA. There's still a few questions here that are more like general program questions. But please feel free to keep dropping your questions in the Q&A box. And if we have some time at the end, we'll get to them. All right, thank you both for all that great information. And they'll still be here for the Q&A at the end as well. All right, so we'll move forward. So let's say, all that sounds super great. How do you get started? What does that PBA enrollment process look like? So the first step is just to do the enrollment form. So the enrollment form is really only going to ask you for some super simple information, just so we know where your undergraduate program is from and things like that. You'll include your unofficial undergraduate transcript. I think we did have a question about like, what does that need to look like? If you want more information, you can find it on our graduate school website. I don't have the link on hand, but our graduate school website has information about supporting materials, and it gives a really good overview of what qualifies as an accredited undergraduate transcript, but it's typically a 4-year degree or the equivalent. And also, if you have further questions, please feel free to reach out. I'll give contact information later on, or you can find our graduate admissions office contact information as well if you have specific questions about your degree. But yeah, so the first step is just do that enrollment form, and it's a super simple form. And then the next step is to enroll in those PBA pathway courses. So once you do the enrollment form, you'll get admission information. You'll set up your Clemson accounts, and then you'll go in and you'll register for those PBA courses. And like we said, you can do both, or you could do only one and then do the other one the following semester. Each course is 3 credits. And I do want to mention, I don't have this like linked in here or on this slideshow anywhere, but it is on our website as well. But the tuition process is pay as you go. So you will pay for the PBA courses when you enroll, and usually the payment deadlines are a few weeks before the start of class. Each course is it's $676 per credit hour. So times that by 3, and that's the rate per course. And then there is a semesterly fee of $103. So if you're looking to do this over the course of a few more semesters, maybe stretch it out, it will be slightly more expensive, but still a great rate for, advancing your career or switching career paths depending on what you're doing. So yeah, once you enroll in those PBA pathway courses and take those, the next step is just to receive your grade, and as long as you pass both PBA courses with a B or better, you'll receive full admission to the MSCS program. And the really cool thing about this too is that those PBA pathway courses do count towards the degree. So you're making progress on that degree as you're doing the PBA pathway courses. So once you're fully admitted, you only have 8 more courses to go. So yeah, so that is really super simple process. If all of that sounds great, then you can scan the QR code on the screen now. And as I said, enrollment for spring 2025 is open right now. If you hit the enroll now button, it'll bring you to that enrollment form that I mentioned in step 1. And really, it should only take, if you have your transcript on hand, it'll take you only a few minutes to complete it. If you have more questions, there's also a request info button on that page that will get you in touch with one of our enrollment counselors. So our enrollment counselors work with Coursera, and their names are Katie Davis and Carolyn Carpenter, and they're awesome resources. I'm talking to them on a regular basis. They're, keeping in touch with us, so they can answer your questions as best as possible. And they always put you in touch with us if need be, depending on your situation. But they're super great resources and know a ton about this program. So definitely hit that request info button and get in touch with them. If you have other questions, we will try to get to the rest of the questions today, but if we don't, fear not, we are here to answer your questions always. So some dates, I know people were asking about deadlines and dates. So registration for spring opens November 6th. One question I do see a lot is like, is there a cap? And currently there is no cap. So you don't have to do your enrollment form before November 6th to fear, like if you're worried that the course is going to fill up. But if you're eager and ready to get going and you want to register when registration opens, you can go ahead and do your form now and you'll be ready to go for the spring. And you can register on November 6th. Enrollment closes on January 8th, and that is also the first day of class. So I do recommend trying to get your forms in before then, just so that our graduate admissions office has some time to process it. And you can register for classes and get going before classes start. But if that's not the case, you do have till January 8th. So just so everyone has those deadlines in mind. We will kind of move into our final Q&A session. So if you have more questions, please drop them in the chat. If you need me to back up to the previous slide, please just let me know and I can pull that QR code up again as well. All right, and if everyone just kind of wants to, I'm going to stop sharing so that you can kind of see all of our lovely faces. But if anyone needs me to pull that screen up again, please let me know. I'm just gonna skim through this Q&A. So I did see a question. I think there was a couple questions about taking courses on Coursera for non-credit, and we did kind of touch on that a little bit. That's what the open content is. The open content, some of the assignments you do will actually transfer into the 4 credit if you end up enrolling in the 4 credit. So yeah, if you're looking more to sample the stuff, I would definitely recommend that open content. Right now we do not offer financial aid. If you have your own like employee tuition assistance or anything like that, I definitely recommend looking into that. And getting in touch with your employer about all of that stuff because I do see a question about employer paying, is there a prepaid deadline? What's the word? The bill deadlines typically get released on our website, probably around registration timeframe. I believe bills are usually due a few weeks before class, and then bills are usually released a couple weeks before that. So you wouldn't be able to pay your bill until the bills are released. But we do have a great financial services office that you can work with to get all of those details sorted if you do have access to like employee tuition assistance or anything like that. So I definitely recommend looking into those opportunities. I have some questions about cost. If you use that link to go to our website, you can find those numbers under the tuition financing tab. Again, it's $676 per credit hour, and then $103 fee per semester. The open content is not available right now. We are planning to release it, I believe, this semester, but I don't know of the exact timeline for that. And yes, you can take the 2 PBA courses in the first semester. That's correct. So we would, honestly, it's depending on your lifestyle, we would, or if you're wanting to get going, take both courses and get into the program as quickly as possible. But if your lifestyle is really, really busy, take one at a time and kind of slowly ramp your way up. We definitely understand kind of the desire to do that. There's a question about how long the semesters are. The semesters are 16 weeks long. So our fall semester usually ranges from late August to early December, and then our spring semester is early January to like early May. So with some breaks in between. Scanning for other questions. I think there was a question, and I can't remember if I answered this, about if summer courses would be offered, and unfortunately, we do not have summer courses at this time, only fall and spring. If you've already done the enrollment form, it usually takes a few days to process. If you're not seeing your any emails come through, definitely reach out in that request info form or reach out to one of our enrollment counselors. I think we're dropping links in the chat and stuff like that, because it might be caught up somewhere and we can check on the status of it. So yeah, if you're like, I'm not hearing anything from anyone, please reach out and we're like happy to look into it for you and give you a status update at any time. We don't want you to get lost in the abyss. So if you've enrolled and accepted your enrollment, like you can log into iRoar. So the next step, yes, would be to register for PBA courses on November 6th. So that will be when the spring courses are available for registration. So right now you might be in a little bit of a limbo. Feel free to like kind of scan through Clemson's website or reach out if you have any questions. But yeah, right now you're really just waiting for that November 6th date to register for those classes. I do see a question about the human AI interaction class. Will it cover topics beyond prompt engineering? Dr. Dean, do you know the answer to that? I'm not super familiar with the exact topics.
That might actually be more of a Paige question in
Okay.
terms of her class. I know that the AI side of things definitely goes beyond just prompt engineering. I mean, prompt engineering would be a part of certain types of classes, probably yours included, I would guess, Paige, but much deeper than that.
Yeah, we do some prompt engineering. I think that's kind of the basics, and then we go dive deeper. I know that is it Carlos's class?
At HCC 6600, it's the human AI.
Yeah, I think they
Yeah.
do a little bit more too, and break it down on the technical end rather than just prompt engineering. I'm not fully sure exactly more about that, but I'm sure Carlos would be able to answer questions if you had any. Could probably reach out to him. But yeah, so
That's a
we
different
do.
Carlos from our MS program coordinator. MS program coordinator is Carlos Cabrera, but we have another faculty member that teaches our HEC 6600. But yeah, if you have questions about that, feel free to reach out as well, and we can always forward things along and answer your specific questions. I do see a question about if you're waiting on review of your transcripts. If you're graduating like this December, you would still be eligible to start in the spring because you're finishing up your bachelor's degree. So we essentially just need to validate that you are kind of in progress to finish your bachelor's degree. So your expected graduation date is before your enrollment date of the master's program. International bachelor's degrees are definitely valid. I can't say specifically for like a specific institution or country. It kind of depends on the institution oftentimes. So if you have questions about your specific degrees that you have, I definitely recommend reaching out to our graduate admissions office or one of the enrollment counselors, and we can kind of answer those questions more based on your specific situation. We are hitting 1 o'clock. And I think we've kind of covered some of these topics. But again, if we didn't get to your question, or if you have any other questions that pop up, I know that oftentimes after these kinds of things, I'm like, oh my gosh, I just thought of like 60 more questions I need to ask. Please feel free to reach out. As I said, we're really eager for you guys to get started and join us in the program. Any final thoughts from anyone before we go?
I had one. I saw a question about office hours in person, and I know that this will vary per instructor. Personally, when I'm on campus, my door is typically open, and if it's open, you are welcome to come in at any time. And I'm sure that other professors would love to like see you come in too as well, but they will be offered online for sure.
Absolutely. That's a great note to leave us off on. We are really excited to have you as part of the Clemson community. So if you're ever in the area or if you're local, definitely come visit us and come see the beautiful campus. So yeah, thank you everyone for joining today and kind of sticking with us. Again, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. Everyone have a good day.